Barbie, a movie blessed with a phenomenal cast that I'll spend most of the time talking about because they're why this movie worked for me, but there's also not so great moments in the movie. Let's just talk about the movie itself first. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie by any means, but I do kind of feel like it's a streaming movie, almost like it was a Netflix original I got to see in theaters. I don't know if that's the worst thing because there's some good streaming movies like Prey, but it just didn't feel like a movie I needed to see on the big screen. I think the comedy is great in this movie though, especially when they lean into it. The first act while they're in Barbie Land was far and away the best part of this movie, and it's the second act where it gets kind of Netflixy, and what I mean is if I wasn't in the movie theater, I'd be sitting in my bed scrolling on Twitter while the movie was going on. It really dragged when they were in the real world, and that even carried over a bit into the third act when they're back in Barbie Land before the movie finished with a pretty strong 20 or so minutes, thanks to the Ken War, which I might add, I know it's probably because I'm a guy, but the Kens were much more enjoyable overall throughout the entire movie. Everything from the Goss's song, which was hilariously ridiculous, to the beef between different Kens over who gets which Barbie, and especially the beach off. Those types of scenes in Barbie Land really make me wish this movie had just gone full 100% comedy. It suffered from the same thing No Hard Feelings did for me, where it's great and hilarious, but then takes an exit off the funny highway instead of staying in that left lane. I also want to acknowledge the creative design and choices made for Barbie Land. They were very good. Everything from the props to make it feel like their own world there in the toy world, to the effects when Barbies and Kens would do certain things. I think this movie is really going to test how big that female repeat viewing audience is still that drove Captain Marvel to a $1 billion box office run, because thinking forward, if Barbie can't hit $1 billion, or at least like 800, 900 million, the Marvels is screwed. Anyway, as I said, I didn't hate this movie. I didn't roll my eyes at all, which is a very plus for a movie like this, and it just didn't fulfill my expectations of the blockbuster it was promoted to be, with exception to its cast. Now let's talk more about that cast, because as I said, they're the reason this movie works. I've got a pretty decent sized list here of actors who stood out to me during the movie, so I'll go through them pretty quickly, but I also want to make sure they get their due because they were truly phenomenal. First off, Barbie herself, Margot Robbie. As expected, she delivered an outstanding performance as the lead in this movie, and it really kind of felt like she was just being herself. It was a very natural performance. Issa Rae was great too. As President Barbie, I could only hear Jessica Drew during the whole movie because that's just how my mind works, but regardless, she stood out too as one of the great Barbies. Then there's the Kens. This is where the movie really worked for me, and it all starts with Ryan Gosling. I don't know if I just don't remember it or if I didn't know he was, but he was hilarious in this role from the first scene, stealing every single scene he's in, especially his song. But the Ken who I enjoyed even more, I actually didn't even know he was in the movie until I saw him, and that was Kingsley Benadir. I've been loving him as Gravik in Secret Invasion, but this was a complete 180, and he can prove he really does that comedy acting, and I was shocked. He plays a great wingman to Ryan Gosling's Ken. And when do you need your wingman the most? When another dude's trying to steal your girl, and that's where Simu Liu comes in. The Marvel Party was great in this movie, and Simu thrived in this role of the douchey, always gotta one up you Ken. But Marvel wasn't the only franchise being represented, as John Cena shows up as a Merken and is amazing. He continues to prove himself as the best wrestler turned actor, sorry Dave Bautista, in this limited role. Then there was the only Alan, Michael Cera. He gave a great performance, very reminiscent of his Superbad character Evan, which was a complete joy to see. And finally, Will Ferrell. You know exactly what you're getting when you put him in your movie, and he did not disappoint one bit here, bringing a classic Will Ferrell performance. And that's going to do it for my review of Barbie. I know I wasn't the target audience, I knew that going into the theater, but I left pleasantly surprised thanks to some great comedic bits and the electric cast. As always, though, I want to know what you thought about the movie, so let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it greatly if you subscribe to the channel to show some support, and I hope to see you around the Nerdverse in the future. I'll have my Oppenheimer review out tomorrow as I see it tonight, so stay tuned for that, and make sure you have a great day.